But here's the thing about our country, though. Mm-hmm. It gives you the opportunity to grow into being an owner.
It does.
Right?
It does.
I mean, anybody can. At least we have that, right? We have that opportunity and that avenue to pursue.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
Yes, as always, thank you, Mr. Matt Wilson, for the big VO, and I got to thank you for this is the Christian Brothers Automotive of Spring Hill Studios, and this podcast is also powered by Muletown Bikes. Go check those guys out at muletownbikes.com. They're down in Columbia, and if your car needs to be worked on, make sure to take it to my pal Jason at Christian Brothers Automotive of Spring Hill down here on Wall Street. Getting back to the bike aspect of it, I did get an Aventon e-bike recently. And, my reason being is because instead of at this age pedaling uphill and giving it all and not really looking forward to it, I'd rather look forward to the workout and double it if need be. So instead of doing 4 and 5 miles and being utterly exhausted and doubting whether I want to get past the first 5 minutes of the workout, I'm really looking forward to it, to the point where I did 13 miles yesterday. Isn't that crazy? So check those guys out, Muletown Bikes. If you need any kind of regular bike or an e-bike, Aventon, I totally recommend them. They're amazing. Vinny's the guy. He's been on this podcast, as has Jason with Christian Brothers Automotive of Spring Hill. And a little bit of news, Craig. Apparently, we're getting a Chinatown. Were you aware of this?
No.
Nashville.
Chinatown.
Chinatown in Nashville.
Meaning a portion of Nashville is going to be Chinatown.
Chinatown, like you'd find in New York City.
Interesting.
According to Matt Bogosian, local realtor, he's been on the show. He was actually one of our first guests in a different iteration. He was talking about us, kind of like he's been doing a lot of news features and business happenings all around town. He's doing a great job of it. So yes, a Chinatown will be coming to the Antioch area.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you got to love that.
So usually when a portion of a town is dedicated Chinatown, it's like it has a history of, that ethnicity kind of making their home there.
Right.
And so I'm interested, how did this all of a sudden in Antioch be chosen to be Chinatown?
Well, Craig, you have to tune into what Matt Bogosian put up on his Instagram and find out for yourself. That's called a tease. So today's guest, we have Craig Wipperman, who is a business coach. You're in a very crowded field, my friend.
Yes, indeed.
Tell me a little bit about that. A lot of what, like Monty Moore, who's another local realtor, a great friend of mine, he says, before we believe the messenger or message, we need to believe the messenger. And you come, I know you and I know your background. You have a lot of business experience, which you have taken and packaged it up and have the advice of a true coach because you know business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that journey. How did you get started in business, owning your business, so on and so forth? How'd you begin?
So, man, that's a long story. I'll make it about as quick as I can.
Sure.
Back in school, I started out in, believe it or not, computer science, lasted a year and switched to business. So I then started on an accounting track and then got to my senior year and got exposed to industrial management class and thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. Whereas all the accounting classes I had taken were not too interesting. And my dad, being an engineer, said, well, because I told him I was curious and thinking about changing majors. And he said, if you want to go into industrial management, you should consider industrial engineering. And that led to, industrial engineering is the easiest one, the easiest degree apparently to get in the engineering school. So I chose the hardest one, which was electrical, and I made it through by the skin of my teeth. But then went back and got my accounting degree. So I didn't really know what the heck I wanted to do. Then I moved into, believe it or not, working for a contractor of Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. Performed a role where I was doing audits on companies that were building electronics for the space shuttle program. So I was using auditing skills to make sure that they were compliant. that led into project engineering and program management. And then my wife and I moved to Nashville. We were just talking about Antioch over in the Smyrna area.
This is from Huntsville?
Yes. Yes. Moved from Huntsville, got up to, this is back in 95. My wife and I got married. We relocated here. I worked for a Japanese electronics components manufacturer, and their headquarters was selected to be in the place it was for proximity to the Nashville airport and in the Nashville area because it was equidistant between Chrysler Electronics in Huntsville, IBM up in Fishkill, New York, and Delco up in Kokomo, Indiana. Those were the three big suppliers. And I got exposed to doing product engineering, product marketing, and then into a sales management role. So I flipped back and forth between project engineering, and business side sales and marketing, and then worked for a company that sold obstruction lights.
Obstruction lights.
Obstruction lights.
What are obstruction lights? Because we're in the lighting business here.
Yes, obstruction lights are lights that go on cell phone towers to warn pilots.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There's a structure in the area. So they were headquartered
as an obstruction. So those the flashing lights that you see.
That's correct.
Only for cell towers or radio towers as well?
Oh, radio towers as well. Anything over 200 feet has to be lit.
So were you actively involved with the guys who changed those bulbs at all?
Yeah, you know what? I started out working for a company here in Franklin, Flash Technology. They were privately owned, and they sold obstruction lights, and then they as well serviced the lighting systems. So I worked on the product side, and we had a whole service department on the service side, crews throughout the whole country.
It's amazing to me because you'd see a lot. There's like Instagram channels with guys who do that. They climb these massive towers, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 foot towers, and they show the entire process. They'll wear like a GoPro or something.
Right.
And then, time lapse it as they climb all the way up, strap themselves in, and it shows them, clearing out little debris, maybe a bird's nest or something like that.
Right. And
they'll change the bulbs. And you always have heard, because I was in the radio business for a number of years, and the budgets to get a light bulb changed are quite astronomical, are they not?
Yes.
But how much typically?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, man. I mean, you're talking about.
You could tell me, it's fine.
I can't remember what it was, The bulb itself, not that expensive.
It's the process.
But the labor involved, because you got two people out there, right?
Yeah.
One guy can't climb by himself. And plus, if you're talking about, a 1,000-foot tower that has probably 5 levels, 4 or 5 levels, then there's, while you're up there, you're going to be doing other stuff. You're going to be checking on the other systems, make sure you don't have to come back around, turn around in a couple of weeks, come back out and, change a light bulb out.
It's like, how do you get in the line of work? My God, that sounds like a fun job.
You know what? It was fun. It was a ton of fun. So I ended up moving from that job, working for Flash Technology, then into a company that owned and leased space on the towers to the carriers.
Right.
And came in with them in 2002. And that was probably at the beginning of, cell phone industry probably was in its nascent stages in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
So it had probably got some traction by the time I started.
Early to mid 90s, you were going to physical buildings to have like a car phone installed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And maybe prior to that, you had the bag phones.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really wireless at that point because you had to be integrated into the system of the car and be powered that way. You had to have the antenna on the car.
Mm-hmm.
I remember all those days.
Yeah.
And then making a call cost $25 for 3 minutes.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But when I joined Crown Castle and when I started there in 2004, it was like, oh my gosh, the company the man who started it owned a construction business there in Pittsburgh, which is where their headquarters were. And he would, believe it or not, he had a network of towers around Pittsburgh to stay in touch with his crews.
Mm-hmm.
And he had more and more people, more and more carriers coming up to him wanting to install their pager equipment on his towers.
So he was running like a construction crew.
Right.
Not for towers.
Not for towers, but
he bought the property or rented the property, put the towers on, and then just put the towers up.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is. Well, and it's crazy in that led to a business where I think originally he had like 700 towers back in the late 80s, early 90s.
700 in the Pittsburgh area?
Yeah. That was throughout the region, I would say.
Oh, wow.
You know? So, but then that led to, okay, they merged with another company whose expertise was real estate management. They were located in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Crown in Pittsburgh and Castle in Houston. And then they went public. And I joined the company probably about 5 or 6 years after they went public.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got listed on the stock exchange. Then they got, part of the S&P 500. I mean, we grew from, oh my gosh, I think when I joined, there was like 600 people that worked there. And then when I left, there was like at least 6,000.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's over a 17-year period, but it's some pretty massive growth.
Absolutely.
And in the beginning, I joined right at the end of the first buying spree. They went from 700 towers to like about 7,000 or 8,000 in a few years. And so it was like all this big mess. We were trying to incorporate everybody's tower portfolios into ours. Mm-hmm. And then they changed CEOs. So they went from the deal-making guy to the operational guy. And the operational guy said, okay, we need to stop buying, assets and integrating all of these. So that's when all the organization kind of took place. We were definitely still building the plane and flying it at the same time. But I swear to you, it felt like we were doing that for about 10 years.
Isn't that funny? Because you look at a company like that, that's, got a public offering, then they get listed on a stock exchange. From the outside, well, they got their crap together. You know what I mean? And now you're saying that, no, we were still building the plane while we were flying.
Oh my gosh. Well, they had deep pockets. And they knew, it was at a time when people were tired of seeing 2 or 3 different towers built on on the same piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution we provided was, we'll put one tower here and it'll force all the other carriers to come and lease space off of us.
Yeah, we'll even make the tower look like a tree.
Yeah, well, there's that side of the business too. But not in my backyard. It's kind of a big thing and a big driver. And when you're threatening with 3 different towers, the permitting,
Well, especially in very well-to-do areas. So
without question.
The first time I ever saw a cell tower that was, disguised, quote unquote, as a tree was just off the intersection of 684 and 287 in Westchester, New York.
Wow.
As you got into the hoity-toity area, when it turned into the, not the Merritt Parkway, but one of the parkways that I can't remember the name of. It's been too long, but it goes into a very old money portion of Westchester County, Scarsdale, those types of areas. And those people did not want to see cell towers naked.
Yeah. No way.
No. What a market to open up to.
Oh my gosh. And so, like I said, it was, we weren't organized, right? To your point, which is what you were pointing out, but we were, and all the investors knew, hey, this is a done deal, because especially if you're in the right spot, you're going to force other carriers to come to you. And we had competitors doing the same thing, but it's not like we were competing against our competitors. The competition was against time, to try and get towers built and then acquiring as many assets as you could.
Because the cell phone providers were expanding and advertising and onboarding people, because that was a big boom.
Yes, it was a big time. And you know what? I remember the days when citizens in Europe were texting as a common means of communication well before we were.
Oh, I bet.
Long before we were.
I bet.
And that was kind of like the ongoing subject. When is that going to take off? And then finally it did.
Right around 2003.
Yeah.
Because I remember the T9 technology in the flip phones, or even little small bar phones at the time, My wife, actually, there was a girl at the radio station where I worked in Vegas, and she's like, well, I'll text you. I'm like, no, just call me. And I remember having like that old school mentality. And then my wife started texting me, and I'm like, have you tried this texting thing out? And it's like, oh, this is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's really efficient. It's to the point. I just need to ask you this question real quick. Right. And now people have full entire conversations on it. And it's like, dude, it's like whenever, hey, can you explain to me the plot of War and Peace? No, let's just do it on a phone call.
Yeah,
much easier.
Exactly.
Much easier.
Well, you know what? It's so funny because my wife just had a text exchange with my daughter earlier this morning, and we were both joking about how she communicates everything over a text rather than talking over the phone. And I'm like, you know, I just don't understand that.
Dude, whenever I want to talk about a deal or talk money, I always want to do it on the phone.
Yeah.
Or in person, even better.
Right.
Because you can hear they can hear your tone, they could discern it better. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so many different ways to discern text. You can't get tone out of it.
Oh, without question. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more content that is presented when you're speaking with someone in the same room, face to face. I mean, I guess over a Zoom call is better than obviously text, better than a phone call, but being face to face with someone is far more effective.
I had a potential guest that was coming on this week. We booked it like 3 months ago, and he's like, "Oh, guess we're going on today. You know, what's your Zoom link?" I'm like, "Oh, buddy, I don't think your people told you. This is in person." I said, "So what time can you be here?" "Oh, I can't make it." I'm like, "Of course not. You know, we can reschedule." But, you know, I'm like, I just don't do Zoom.
Right.
I will do it on the very rare exception. If, you know, Donald Trump wants to be on my podcast via Zoom, fine. I'll make an exception. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when the Don speaks, everybody kind of bows and does what
they do something.
Yeah.
They have some sort of a reaction.
Right.
That's the case.
Right. So, when we started out, like I said, and grew that big, and then we were building the plane and flying it, and then we got all the tower, you know, assets organized and structured, and then there was I don't want to call it new technology, but it was different technology in that with a traditional cell tower, you know, it's radio being pumped up, you know, or been transmitted up via coax to the antennas. Mm-hmm. With, you know, backhaul and shelter at the bottom of the tower.
Yeah, a little shack.
Yeah, pretty standard. But then it got to be where there was a lot of communities that they didn't want to have a cell phone tower, you know, uglying up the place. So there was a kind of a small cell technology, probably before small cell, true small cell became popular, but it included converting RF to fiber optic and communicating over fiber optics underground. And then instead of putting it on a cell phone tower, your antennas would be on like a telephone pole or some other structure so that it would be concealed. And we got into that, and we started buying companies that were doing that. Then we took the next step because 5G was coming. You know, the next generation of technology, which was supposed to, you know, kind of do the same thing that 4G did.
Very controversial.
Very controversial, yeah. And so now the company went out and bought a lot of fiber networks, a lot of businesses that were providing, you know, high speed, high bandwidth to, you know, companies that were distributed around the country. They had many, many different offices, and they needed high-speed communications. They would own that fiber. Well, we would go buy the company and own their services, but their services were trading at a multiple much less than ours. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of diluted our stock price, but everybody was betting on the come and believing it would come, and it never really materialized. So Crown over the last couple of 3 years have kind of gone through a change, let's say. I think they're going back to their roots. But I got to a point where there was a lot of new people in the business, a new leadership with a different kind of vision. And it just wasn't fun anymore. In the beginning, it was a ton of fun. At the end, it wasn't that much fun.
Was it because it became like somewhat complacent in a way where?
I don't know if it was complacent, but it it was a different culture.
Yeah.
It was a different in the beginning, the culture was intentional.
Yeah.
And I think they tried to keep the culture the same, but the bigger and bigger it got, the more and more people that came in, I think the more challenging it was. And plus we had the change in leadership that had the different kind of view.
You think it grew too fast?
It grew pretty fast.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that'll do it.
Yeah.
It's tough to develop a culture when you grow that like that.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, the culture was awesome. The first probably 10 years I was there, it was fantastic.
And he had 600 people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big company.
Yeah. But it grew to, like I said, 6,000. Yeah. So it got really big. So,
I mean, that's a small city.
I am Vinny Tavares. I'm the owner of Milltown Bikes, right in the heart of Columbia, Tennessee, on the square. And we're here to serve the community. We have bicycles from kids to adults, e-bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes. We run a repair shop. So I am the third generation of this current bike shop. It's been here since the 70s. It's a historical building. It's an integral part of the downtown community in Columbia. We got customers here coming in and talking that they got their very first bike here. So the reception has been great. Everybody's been super friendly, super welcoming. A lot of the old customers that been coming here for generations now still come here. They're now my customers, and I have a huge responsibility to continue to carry that legacy and that passion forward.
Hi, I'm Jason Miller. I'm the owner of Christian Brothers Automotive here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We fix cars here, both European and domestic, from simple oil changes to complete engine rebuilds and replacements. Most important thing, though, is while you're waiting, we've got the best snack game in town, and we invite you to make yourself at home and get to know us, and we treat you like family. We're located right across the street from Walmart on Highway 31 right here in Spring Hill. Let us know that you heard about us on this ad, and we'll give you 10% off your next oil change. So stop on in and see us in downtown Spring Hill. Do we even have a downtown in Spring Hill?
So I got to the finish line. I cashed out and kind of did something different. I had the opportunity to go work for a startup, which was a ton of fun.
That's like getting back to what you did with the first company.
Yeah.
In a way,
that's exactly
600
right.
people's not a startup.
But we were looking to try and, incur that kind of growth, right? Because we all believed what it was we were doing and convinced of it. But the technology actually took too long to evolve, I will say, and our timing was probably off. So, when inflation hit, when was that, 22, 23, the fall of 22, Biden was still in office. But
because all the money printing that happened around, when they're bailing, they were doing the, what do they call it? The EEE, the employee retention credits, all that stuff. That was all one big money printing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so, the appetite for risk just kind of dried up, and our investors kind of just decided, look, we've been at this too long. It's time for us to move. This was the right time to move. So, that dried up, and then the opportunity to be a coach. So all of that to share with you, that's how I ended up being. That's how the opportunity for business coaching came along.
And the funny thing is that, guys, hear what he's saying here, that even at the highest of highs, Amazon, Tesla, SpaceX, all the problems you're having in your business, whether you're a solopreneur or maybe you got 10 people, it's all relative, man. It happens at every single level.
Without question. And so this is what's so cool, Jim. When I learned about ActionCOACH, ActionCOACH is a franchise, and Brad Sugar started it in the late 80s, early 90s.
Do you have a brother named Bob? Bob Sugar?
No.
He's a character from Jerry Maguire.
Okay. Yeah. No. And anyway, Brad started it, and as a matter of fact, they celebrated. So it was actually 1992. No. 1993 must have been, because we celebrated 30 years in 93. But in the early days, Brad, he studied to be an accountant, got out, went into an accounting role, decided it was terribly boring, got a taste of owning his own business on the side, decided I want to be a business owner. So he went out and bought several businesses, had clientele that weren't coming back, and was curious to find out why, because he thought he might be doing something wrong. And one after another told him they were going out of business. it shocked him to the point where he decided he needed to do something about it. It started off with like a humble newsletter, evolved into, seminars that led into coaching, and they knocked it out of the park, I think, in Australia. And he decided he wanted to take it globally, but in order to do that, he knew he had to be in the States. So they relocated to Las Vegas, and that's where the headquarters has been since like 06, maybe.
06?
Yeah.
Because I moved out of there in 05.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. So you were out there.
Shortly before.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, really? I would have heard of it. Whereabouts in Vegas are they located?
You know what? My geography of Vegas, I know it's west of the Strip out there, probably, I don't know.
Summerlin?
Couldn't tell you.
The cross streets, maybe?
If I looked it up, I could, but it's out there.
Just curious.
Yeah. So anyway, and that's the cool thing about it is you just said that, hey, if you're small, or big, you're still going to experience the same types of issues. And honestly, that's what's so cool about what Brad has put together. It's this systematic approach to, growing a business. And I'm telling you, probably a significant percentage of what it is he's put together in the package for growing a business is something I have learned, or things that I have learned throughout my career, but kind of in a piecemeal fashion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's stuff they don't really teach if you went to get your graduate degree. If you went to get an MBA, it's not, they don't teach you how to onboard new employees.
No.
They don't
or how to build culture.
Or how to build a culture, or how to make a system out of leadership, which I find fascinating, So it really intrigued me. And, his vision, he said he worked on it for quite some time, world abundance through business re-education. And I'm like, I can buy into that, because it's like, when you go to college and get a degree, they teach you how to get a job.
Right.
They don't teach you how to run a business.
George Carlin said, the modern school system teaches people how to be obedient workers.
That's about the truth, man.
That's about the truth. And of course, you're going to have people that buck the system. I had this conversation with Gary Eady today at lunch.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. He was like, we're talking about college and the trades and everything like that. And I said, at this point in time, college is just extended adolescence.
Right.
Not obsolescence. What is obsolescence?
Well, college is about to become obsolete. I don't know if that's obsolescence.
Obsolescence.
But I see that the enrollment and colleges are actually kind of panicking, I think, some, because the enrollment into colleges has dropped significantly.
Dude, my daughter goes to UTC. And they have an entire kayaking course inside of their recreation building with a lazy river. It's like a water park.
Wow. And
I said, well, if you have nothing to do, you can at least go do that. She's like, yeah, but I just don't have $20. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have $20? Well, that's how much it costs for us to get in every time. They charge you? I'm going, wow. Must be nice.
Yeah.
Colleges are like akin to the frickin' IRS. They just have their hands out all the time.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Oh, my God.
Well, and then another conversation I had with a gentleman yesterday. I don't know how of course, I hate to get into politics, but what's going on in the New York mayor's race with, I can't even remember his name. But
Amani or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, but he's an extremely socialist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we've definitely forgotten.
So I don't know. I think I saw George Will say that, you know what? In response to that, somebody asked him this question. He said, you know what? I think it's probably a good thing that every 50 or 60 years we have someone like that get elected and put into office just to see how bad the system is, just to prove how bad, the government owning things.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Right. Well, and then of course, it's like, where is the public education system? Why I just don't understand how, and maybe I'm naive, but I just don't understand how.
Those who listen to this podcast know what I'm going to say next. And it's all about that book right there that I'm pointing to on the screen. I always have it behind me because it's almost like, gospel in my life, but it's a great read. And I suggest, as a coach and as somebody who probably studies culture and shifts in society, that's a good book to read, called Pendulum.
Pendulum. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. You ever hear the books called Generations by Strauss and Howe? There's another one that followed it called The Fourth Turning. Mm-hmm. Tony Robbins is very big in his. He had one of the authors on. I think one of them already passed. but he and Ray Dalio are very big studiers of patterns in society and history.
Have you read Dalio's book, The Changing World Order?
It probably has to do with a lot of that. It probably has to do with a lot of the stuff that these guys talked about.
It's a great read, man. Yeah. He was a hedge fund owner for quite some time.
Smart man.
Recently walked away from it, but the book, he engaged with some like social experts as well. Social, what would you call it? Historical, social.
Yeah, they study the
experts. The social and cultures of previous generations and empires and what have you. And so Dalio's book takes that and combines it with what it is he learned, how to invest in certain economies based on where they are in their life cycle. And he has these determinants that say, for example, being the world's reserve currency, right? That's like the number one, and then he compares like the Dutch Empire, how its rise and fall, its fall kind of coincides with the British rise and fall, and then after World War II, the United States rose, and he presents this. Okay, here we are. Now we're being challenged by the Chinese, and he kind of leaves it to question as to, what's the future going to, what does the future hold? And following him on LinkedIn is intriguing because he provides comments from that perspective and kind of keeps you informed on what his observations are, which is really, really cool. But
everybody, per the book, and a lot of the book is basically where we are now is what's spoken about in the previous book called The Fourth Turning. I'm not surprised at any of this that we're going through. The turmoil, everybody being at odds with each other, societal upheaval, that kind of thing.
That's exactly the theme from the Dalio Changing World Order.
Not surprised at all.
And that's the cool thing about that book. It provides a framework.
Yeah.
And I think the way I tripped over Ray Dalio was I saw a YouTube video, 10 or 15 minutes long, talks about the credit and debt, how does it work? We should put the link in the
like how economies work and debt and credit.
How the economy works or something like that is the name of it. I should be armed with the name of that video, but it is. I'm telling you, man, in 15 or 20 minutes, you learn so much about the market for money and how interest rates rise and fall, and how the growth in GDP over time, and how the cycles go, and how there's small cycles, and every 100 years or so there's a big cycle.
See, I think there's an element of which was almost touched upon in the movie The Big Short. You ever see that movie?
I did not.
Oh, buddy, it breaks down the meltdown in 2008.
Yeah, right.
And I've probably watched that movie 9 times. Like my wife jokingly says, she's like, that movie just confuses me. I said, but you always get something out of it every passing. I said, at least that's what I do. I get the gist of what happened now. But they talk about Wall Street and the banking industry inventing terms to overcomplicate what it is. So it seems so confusing to the rest of us that we need them to do what they do. And it's literally going into how they've, they break it down to its simplistic form, and you can go, oh, it's just supply and demand. What is currency? Currency is an exchange, a way I use that we all agree on that has value, quote unquote, that, some faceless federal bank has ability to print ad nauseum into infinity. And then when you do that, what happens? It's, supply and demand. The value goes down. The more the supply, faltering demand maybe. And now you got this. That's why Bitcoin was created, was because, you look at crypto now. Crypto's, dare I say, I always say this, is probably circa, like I compare crypto presently to the internet circa 1995, 96. Everybody knows generally what it is. They just have no idea how it applies to their life yet. And I've heard somebody make that comparison saying that it's actually 1991 internet is where we are with crypto. And I'm going, I don't know about that. I mean, that's great because I'm already invested. And if that's the case, great. Because that means in the next 10 years, we're going to freaking be sitting pretty.
Right.
I said, but the thing is that everybody knows. I mean, everybody generally, I think in the consensus, in the zeitgeist, if you will, everybody is aware of crypto. They just have no idea what blockchain means, all these different things. I'm still figuring it out, and I've been doing it for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, like, to Ray Dalio's credit and point, there is a technological shift happening because the reason why the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi, nobody knows who he is, created the currency was out of frustration of what happened in 2008.
Oh, wow.
He's like, we need a currency once and for all that is completely transparent. There's only going to be so much of it, and that's it.
Yeah.
There can't be any more manipulation,
Yeah.
What happened in 1913? Really good conspiratorial.
Yeah. Well, you talk about technological advancement, right? And think about, of course, you can't talk about that.
No.
Not talk about AI and what it's doing.
That's another thing that's going to come down the pike that people have no idea how to process right now.
Well, and you know what? The NAFTA agreement back in George Bush 1 days was seen as, at the time, which it actually did, it allowed other countries, to perfect their expertise in manufacturing as the United States got out of manufacturing. And unfortunately, those who held manufacturing jobs didn't, or a lot of them weren't able to kind of like adapt and change and reinvent themselves. And now, we're going to look, it's going to be very similar, only instead of blue collar, it's going to be white collar people who are going to be suffering that. What am I going to do as technology advances? And everybody has to reinvent themselves.
Well, that's the thing. It's even another bad thing for college because college is primarily training people in the white collar sector.
That's exactly right.
Psychology, things of that nature. So,
and there's a big shortage in the trades.
Yeah.
Right now.
I just had this conversation with Gary.
Oh, is that right?
Because he was like looking for ways for colleges to kind of get on board with scholarships and stuff like that for kids that are, who have athletic ability and talent in the basketball, which has a lot to do with collegiate sports.
Right.
I'm like, said, you might want to flip that conversation. I said, because I think there's going to be such a push for tradespeople in the future because it's AI proof.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Now.
Exactly. Well, AI can't use, I was going to say AI can't use its hands, but have you seen
the robots come along?
Well, exactly. Have you seen some of the stuff that's going on in the Amazon warehouses? The one thing they can't figure out is how the fingers work.
Right.
How the fingers can pick stuff up, but I'm sure sometime next week, they will figure it out. But
but how many people are going to want, robots building buildings
or calling on them, right, to fix their AC? There's still going to be that personal interaction that is what makes us human. Right? That a robot, oddly enough, do you use Chat GPT?
I do. I use it for more idea starters.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're at the point now with AI, you can kind of tell when something's written by AI.
Yeah,
or,
right.
I joke.
It's like the perfect assistant.
It is.
Yeah. Figure this out for me.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay.
Yep.
I don't think I like that.
Right.
Did you think about this? And so here's what happens. Oh, it comes back and it says, oh, Craig, no, I didn't think about that. Boy, that was very, very sharp observation you had. And I'm like, don't treat me like you're a human because you're a machine. Don't try and trick me. Don't, this kind of like freaks me out.
Well, I think it's like even in the personal branding space, you're going to have AI influencers being created. You're seeing it in the music space.
Yeah.
All right. And it's like I do a podcast with a bunch of songwriters here in town, 2 of which play with a high profile artist. So it's like, songwriting, dare I say, I don't know, guys. I think you're kind of, there's trouble coming down because AI is doing I've tried some of those apps. They're not bad. And it's like, it's got access to the historical context and depths of human existence, which songwriting generally comes from personal experience and pain and sadness and events that happen in people's lives that, they get really wistful and, they get inspired to write about it because then everybody can relate to it. But all of a sudden you have this intelligence out there that has access to eons of it. If it's on the internet, it's going to be able to pull from it. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. Yeah, and they can do it in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's funny, Jim. I hadn't really even thought about them. AI as a bona fide source. They're not really trying to create, an Elvis sound or,
you could do it. You want to write a song, you could do it right now.
Do it. Yeah. But have an independent voice, so you're not really copying anybody else. And that spawning, this whole make-believe type of place and it's like these guys are still talking about radio being a large part of their income because per the old rules, radio pays the most for royalties. So if you get a hit, you get a cut, and it all of a sudden explodes. Let's say it hits top 10 charts and it lands in that position category or section of the charts. You're making a good amount of money. And of course, in town, they typically got like 3 and 4 songwriters in on the song. So you got 4 hands in the pot already amongst all the other things. It's already been going down, but now you have radio is dying. Music radio in particular, not necessarily talk radio, but music radio is going away because of streaming services, Spotify's. Right. What's to say that Spotify one day all of a sudden says, and Spotify pays abysmally low. Right.
Royalties. They pay barely anything. What's to say that they don't create an entire department? We could just make our own music, our own artists. Why do we need to pay any royalties at all to these people and just flip a switch?
Right.
Because now they are the delivery mechanism for new music.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, try this on. Obviously the social media platforms are probably leading the way. Why do we need humans to do that anymore?
Yeah.
I'm serious. And I said the next pivot, guys, is podcasting because this is personality driven. I believe that talk radio is going to be insulated because it's personality driven, it's human, and podcasting. Even though there's, I think 4 million podcasts out there now.
Yeah.
So
well, it will be interesting to see if AI can create stories in music that connect with an audience.
Yep.
And the audience be influenced.
And will they know the difference? That's
if they did, I don't think, honestly, that's an interesting experiment, isn't it?
It is.
To see if they would, if like to test a group, here's a control group, here's a test group, right? The control group over here, they know the difference, and this one over here doesn't know the difference, and see if there's a difference in how each group is influenced or not. You know what I mean?
Because that's not only this generation, my kids' generation, our kids' generation, it's going to be the most cynical generation we've ever come across. They're not going to know what's real.
Yeah.
They're not going to know what's true.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think we've had a taste of that, right? With social media posts these days.
Oh, yeah.
They're all, a lot of them are, and I've seen more in the last month that I'm like, that guy didn't say that. There's no way that guy said that, And I'll go looking for it somewhere else and it's nowhere. And then I come back to it and I'm like, how in the world did they have the
blatant lies
about, I'm just like, I can't believe that, dude.
Well, not only that, you see the Rolling Stones are touring with, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. What? Recently they had the talk about the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah.
And Turning Point's having its own, evidently. We don't really know who's going to be performing, but somebody went ahead and made an announcement of a poster that included Kid Rock, Travis Tritt, Lee Greenwood, Jason Aldean. This is going to be the Turning Point halftime show that they're going to be like, that's a lot of artists to stuff into, a half an hour performance. First and foremost, if it's I don't think it's a half an hour. It's probably 15 minutes. And, I know the guys in Aldean's band. I said, so is this legit? And they're like, oh, hell no. We'd be top biller. I'm like, of course you would. And I said, but then you look closer at it. Somebody on the other side put it together to kind of poke fun at the notion of Turning Point doing this. Because like on top of it, it had like a generic beer can and then some cap, that was red. And at the bottom, it was like, okay, yeah, this is obviously, there's something up with this that's not adding up.
Well, I mean, you say the next generation is going to be the most cynical.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, kind of already happening. Right?
It is.
It's already happening.
They don't know what they are not going to believe anything.
Yeah.
Unless they feel it personally, intrinsically, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, it really is. Because it's like at one time you did trust stuff you saw, but now it's like, even if it comes from a credible source, you end up questioning it. But,
well, I mean, when did the country really start questioning the news media?
Well,
60s, 70s?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to doesn't it go back to the Pentagon Papers, and they continued to fight a war that they knew they couldn't win. And
in Vietnam?
McNamara they knew, and they just continued to fight it.
Yeah.
And send our boys, and I say that, I mean, men who gave their lives to a cause that is a sad,
it is.
I mean, sad thing.
That was the military industrial complex needing another injection. So they realized the business model of pitting countries against one another, probably at the height being, or at least the catalyst was World War II. But that had been kind of going on a long time prior. But again, getting back to the book, it talks about these calamities that happen every 80 years.
Right.
And right now we're 80 years away from World War II. Well, actually the end of World War II. But the book basically says that 2003 was 1943 all over again. And that's all like to songwriters, to people, and that's all cultural stuff. It has nothing to do with economies, right versus left, or politics, or actually the only difference is Eastern versus Western philosophical cultures. So it is actually quite the opposite for China and Asia, interestingly enough. So they're actually going through what we went through in 1983. Which is a complete opposite side of the pendulum, if you will.
I see.
And the concepts are really interesting. I mean, I can't, put it in a nutshell in the next 5 minutes. Read the book, actually listen to the book. It's very cerebral. Right. But, where we are now, it's, we're lacking a calamity of sorts. That's the troubling part, and it's the darkest part of the pendulum swing. They call it the zenith of a we mindset. And there's a whole bunch of tenets to it and stuff like that. But we're absent a calamity. Every time we've gone through it, we've had some big calamity. So 80 years ago, World War II. 80 years before that, the Civil War. 80 years before that, the Revolutionary War. It, at least in our history. So that's, you could say, well, the Vietnam War. Well, yeah, it was a pretty big calamity, but it wasn't, it didn't take up mind space like World War II did. I think there was a mental fatigue that happened, even though everything was happening in two different theaters. The speed at which news got to the homeland, people truly not knowing what tomorrow would look like because we were isolated. But that's, how long can we remain isolated? They have, Nazi U-boats being spotted off of Long Island and the coast of the States. They're right there. What's to say they just don't raid? You know what I mean? Those are the kinds of things those people lived with.
Right.
And I think there was a lot more gung-ho for the country back then. That all flipped in Vietnam because you had a whole new generation that was cynical.
Right.
And we were also going into the upswing of what we call a me, where we came out here I am going into it now. The commonplace and whitewashing and broad stroke brushing of the 40s and 50s where, yes, the baby boom happened because of our memory of World War II. We need to repopulate, essentially. The nuclear family started coming about. Everybody owned a car as long as it was like a very plain looking car. But look what happened in 1963. The advent of the Corvette comes out. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't want my dad's car. I like that car because that's me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
And the 60s as we know it, really it was only 1963 to 69. culminating with Woodstock and stuff like that, and then went to another shift of the upswing into 1983. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's you're right. It's Vietnam was very. It was that way for a cultural reason, big time.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. So, which reminds me, Jim, do you ever watch any of Ken Burns' PBS specials?
I'm pretty sure I have.
You know what? He's got one on Vietnam that is fascinating. It's like, probably 5 episodes each, 2 hours long. So it's like 10 hours worth of television. But I'm telling you, it's worth watching, man.
I bet.
It exposes, and it's like, you and I are at the age that you can just barely remember some of the things that were going on. But he provides a lot of background and content and detail to it. It's a fascinating thing to watch, and I would highly recommend that.
Well, Vietnam ended in 1975.
I think probably officially, yeah.
So that was the year I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I have no remembrance of it other than what was, passed down via accounts written or verbally. My father-in-law served in Vietnam.
Oh, really?
So he does not talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. How long was he over there?
I want to say I would guess maybe 2 years.
Okay.
But
So
he was in the rice paddies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's seen friends die.
Yeah.
But he does not talk about it to this day. And he's 82 now. But you bring up a good point. Why do we repeat history? And I think it's not because we don't learn from the past. We have no idea what it felt like. Tactfully,
Right.
Intrinsically. My parents didn't know what World War II felt like. They were babies. They were born during World War II. My grandparent, our grandparents, if you will, they knew what it felt like. Now, they can only tell you. It's like telling a child, don't touch the stove, it's hot. They do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, see what your idea of hot was.
Right. Well, when you talk about the cycles and the pendulum, it's all because this generation didn't remember what it was like. And it was like we were talking about with the politics and the mayor of New York. It's like nobody remembers, the last big socialist experiment. And so everybody has to learn on their own. And that's all a part of human behavior, which in and of itself is kind of a fascinating topic,
Which is funny because you can just go down to Miami and talk to, I had a conversation with a Cuban guy, wonderful human being, great guy, achieved a lot of success for himself. He works at a Mercedes dealer down there. We talked for about 45 minutes to an hour about his experience getting here. And he's like, yeah, you don't want socialism. I've lived with it. And he's like, it's so frustrating. Nobody listens.
Yeah.
Because they think they know.
Yeah.
And he's like, I literally lived with it, guys. I'm within a generation of telling you what you're in for if this is what you want.
Right. Well, and here's the deal. Here's something else that's really sad. Our immigration policies are horrible.
Right.
Right. It takes years for somebody to become a citizen. Right. And yet people are, just like you pointed out, escaping bad situations, trying to, can you imagine walking from South America, Central America, all the way up to try and get into the United States?
Yep.
Those are pretty tough people, if you ask me. They are really hungry to come make a life for themselves. And it's like, I might want to have them on my team.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in and amongst all of those, and you can't argue with anyone else who says we need to have, because I am a full proponent of that, in and amongst those people you really want, you have no idea the risk of some of the others that are coming into the country, which is kind of scary. So it's like, it is a very, very sad situation. And honestly, a failure of Congress, without question, unable to put together an immigration policy that makes sense. It's very sad.
But I think I don't know. I'm more cynical that way. I think a lot of that was done on purpose.
A lot of
just all the things that have happened. Any way they could divide us, they've done it. They've divided the rich from the poor. They divided men from women. it's like it's getting ludicrous with all the things. I just had a conversation with one of our Gen Y people here, or not. Yeah, I guess he's Gen Y, maybe even Gen Z. I said, the thing is, and I said, don't take this the wrong way. I said, us Gen Xers can say the same thing. I said, but I think we were within one generation of understanding what this meant. I said, but nobody knows what real struggle is anymore.
That's right.
Suffering.
Oh my gosh.
Other than coming from different countries that are impoverished, government situations where it's imposed law and stuff like that, and totalitarianism, that kind of thing. Here, this is a society. What society will look like when it's had it too good.
Mm-hmm. No question.
Okay, we're living through it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're having to invent struggles to contend with. That's where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I half jokingly say we need a good war. We need bloodshed. We really do.
So part of Ray Dalio's, theory or assessment is that the separation happens, just like you're describing, between the haves and the have-nots. And then you've got nationalists, both on the liberal and on the conservative side that are going to the extremes, and they starting to look like each other, and then things start to break.
Mm-hmm.
And voila, before you know it, you're in a war.
Right.
And then the winners and losers, after, a big fight, divide up what, the remains, and then all of a sudden you're in another cycle, I'm
telling you, George Carlin had it spot on. He wasn't a comedian. He was a political prognosticator and commentator early. Mm-hmm. He was funny.
Yeah.
He was a master at the English language, but he saw it exactly for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his stuff that people would laugh at, he did a whole thing of he's like, you don't have freedom in this country. You have the illusion, or choice, rather. You have the illusion of choice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have anything. You have owners. They own you. It's one big club and you ain't in it. And people would sit in there laughing at him. He wasn't being funny.
No,
he was being dead ass serious.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing about our country, though. Mm-hmm. It gives you the opportunity to grow into being an owner.
It does.
Right?
It does.
I mean, anybody can. At least we have that, right?
Yeah.
We have that opportunity and that avenue to pursue that
for now.
And for now, well, of course, but you have no idea how blessed and fortunate we are to have lived during the years and the period that we've lived in.
And that's something that does need to be made aware. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better and sound better. We just make them incredible again. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. IncredibleDoors.com.
And I think a lot of what we've been seeing is the people that are in between the extremes are starting to get frustrated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They say that wars start when talking stops, when communication stops, and we saw that kind of with the Charlie Kirk thing.
Mm-hmm.
All he was trying to do was have conversations. A lot of people labeled him with words that quite frankly don't matter anymore because they've been overused and misapplied so much that I don't care what you call me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything. It's lost its power.
Yeah.
You've overused the word.
Yeah.
We used to remember awesome used to mean something. Remember epic. Somebody did a video on epic, the word epic. And they talked about the food on your plate and the meal you're about to eat that you're putting on Instagram is not epic.
No.
The universe is epic.
Right.
The oceans and the depths of the oceans are epic.
Mm-hmm.
Not your eggs Florentine.
Right. Or your kitty cat.
Right. Oh, this was epic. No, you've just completely depowered the word.
Right. Right.
It doesn't mean anything anymore. We've done that ad nauseum. And the good thing about, like I said, getting back to the pendulum, this is the point where we're more than beyond taking a good thing too far. Something that started at the tipping point in 2003 as a good thing, quote unquote, we're way beyond taking it too far.
Mm-hmm.
That means it's going to start being pulled back down.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are already saying it.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All the things that we're seeing is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so that's a good thing. Man.
Well, what's really cool about it, like you've read The Pendulum and gotten some of the same out of that I have gathered out of Ray Dalio's book, and
we're reading each other's,
and we're witnessing it happening, right? It's a cycle. It's repeating itself, and it's interesting, right? I no longer get upset when I read the news.
No,
I look at it as entertainment. In all honesty,
you're not wrong. I mean, that's funny because we have a podcast called this. It's called Circling the Drain. But first time I ever heard that term being used was George Carlin, bringing them up again. He said, look, there's a term in the medical community that they use when someone's about to pass on. It's called circling the drain. He's like, and that's what this country's doing right now. He was very cynical when it came to that. And he says, and I'm just going to pull up a lawn chair and watch. Because,
and eat my popcorn.
Right.
Yeah.
What can you do at that point?
Right.
Other let it play out.
Right. Every time I think of George Carlin, you can't help but think of the 7 words you can't say on television.
On the radio.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was brilliant. But coaching.
Yeah. Let's talk about coaching.
So a lot of the you have a lot of entrepreneurs out there. It's become a big thing in the last decade at least. Entrepreneur, like to quote Gary Vee, he says, if you were to say you were an entrepreneur in the 90s or even in the 80s, it meant that you were living in your parents' basement and, you don't have a job, essentially. It's really, a lot of people have fallen in love with the notion of taking more control in their life and finding purpose and identity in something that they were meant to do. It's whether or not, they're owning a job or owning a true business.
Mm-hmm.
So
isn't that the truth?
That's where you come in.
Yeah, that's where I come in. And, again, to take a step back, think about your father working for a corporation from, I don't want to say womb to tomb, but from the beginning of his career to the end and taking a pension, and I guess some people found that exciting, but they were providers, and now it's evolved to your point with more and more information made available to the masses. We just spoke about how colleges and their admissions have dropped. It's because people are finding ways to support themselves and be truly independent from the corporate life.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, I think, who, in all honesty, we just talked about Amazon layoffs, and there are more coming from other corporations. They're going to have to figure out how to reinvent themselves. And I would imagine a lot of them are going to look at, business ownership, being self-employed, being someone who can, take control of their own destiny. That's a big shift from being in a secure, I say that in quotes because people think working in a corporate environment is secure,
right?
To working out on your own. And a lot of people who have worked on their own all their life look at going into a corporate job as being terribly insecure because you have no idea, the decisions that are going to be made. At least when you're out on your own, you are the determinant in where your future goes. So coaching, is so much fun because honestly, to be a good coach, you just got to ask good questions,
right?
And have people reflect and think and, oh yes, that's right. I was supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I was supposed to do that.
Right.
And when you see things like that click and then people's behaviors change and you see them improve, it's a ton of fun to do.
See, like my business partner and I, he's very well-versed. He's very excellent business strategist. And it was told to him once, well, I love everything that you're saying, but have you ever owned your own business?
Mm-hmm.
And that really kind of hit him hard. Now we're basically having opportunities to test out our theories and our hypotheses and see if what works and what doesn't, that's where the coaching can really kind of come out. Not that you really need to own your own business, but your experience for sure, being privy to big businesses and how they do things. Seeing, like you mentioned, it's flying the plane while still building it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I would say, even in the lower levels, you're basically, you've jumped out of the plane. Now you're building the parachute.
Yeah. Right.
So at least you were flying. Most people are falling, trying to cushion the blow
right
when they land. And that's what a lot of business entrepreneurship and startups do. Especially when they start small and they bootstrap and stuff like that, and looking out for the predators. And even in the coaching space, you're going to have predatory coaches. You look on any given Instagram post these days, you'll come across it guaranteed probably within the first 10 minutes of this doom scrolling. Is some guy selling a course on how you can, if you're doing this thing, you're doing it wrong. Let me show you how I did it, and I made this amount of money in a month.
Yeah, right.
All those messages.
Right.
What are your thoughts around? Does that kind of like boil your blood in a way?
Yeah, it does, but I don't let that affect me.
Of course not, but
the way coaching should be is it's like anytime you're trying to tutor someone or coach someone or mentor someone, you have to meet them where they're at. Right. So it's not going to be a one thing fits all. There's a system and a structure, but where are you at within that? Where are you at mentally and where are you at business wise? And start there. Yeah. As opposed to, if you buy this package, I guarantee you this or whatever, right?
Or your money back.
Right. Plus there's got to be some level of trust.
Oh, yeah.
Built into it. And there's got to be, because you got to admit it, you're in a relationship, client, coach, there's a relationship there. Can the relationship work?
And then you make a good point, because a lot of coaching, they want to appeal to the masses. One in particular here locally, he's calls himself a coach, and it's like, last I remember, mentor coach meant that it was like almost 1-to-1. A coach was only able to handle maybe a team, baseball team, basketball team. And not thousands or hundreds of people. It's kind of tough to do that and coach people. Well, if you want personal 1-to-1 coaching, then you could pay for it. Well, yeah, getting a piece of your time, you could pay a premium for it. But at that level, I guess it's quote coaching. Here's another word that has lost its power, right? Mentoring is another one. Well, come to this mentor mastermind group. A mentor is almost like an apprenticeship and a master. If you wanted to learn how to be a bricklayer, your master, you'd learned under somebody in an apprenticeship. In a way, they became a mentor. And hopefully they taught you about not only about the trade, but just, things about life, things about how to, where you are. Hey, I remember, with my relationship with Ben here, a lot of it's mentorship. Hey, I remember being your age. Here's how I weathered it. It's not fun, so on and so forth. But understand this. If you keep this in mind, stuff that I wish was told to me back then, I now am sharing with him, I guess, and the style of a mentor. Right. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. You say, and that's a big driver for me. What you just said is like stuff I've learned before that I'm now sharing with you. And it's also for me, stuff I've actually learned and gotten and grown into understanding that I wish I knew a long, long time ago. Right. It would have been, the journey wouldn't have been, I was going to say painful. It would have been a lot smoother, I guess, to have learned some of the things that I've learned now. And you want to see others not have to go trying to clear those obstacles, that somebody's already figured out, You know
who Bradley is?
No.
He does coaching as well, but he's got the stripes, he's got the clout. He's built businesses. He's owned his own business. He was in the car business for a number of years. He and I talk from time to time. He's been on the podcast, but he wrote a book called The Hard Way. And it's all about his experience of doing things, quote, the hard way. So you don't have to. And he and I always kind of don't see eye to eye on this. I said, but they're only going to find their own hard way. They still have to, there's an element of intrinsically learning things. Again, don't touch the hot stove. Okay. Oh, now I know it's hot. I know what that felt like. That's the difference maker right there.
You're onto something with that. Because you can read or someone can show or advise.
Right.
But I think the experience is really, you're not going to change until you feel the heat of the hot stove.
Now I know why.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you're onto something with that. There's no question.
There are people that just going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn the hard way. What do we do with our kids?
Yeah.
Just do this. Well, you're going to have to learn that. My father saw that in me.
Yeah.
You just like to learn the hard way, Jim. Dan, your brother, he's listening to us, but
Well, and so that's so funny. We were just talking about socialism and how one generation will learn from the next.
Right.
It's all because there's not any emotion tied to it from,
There's no tactile.
Yeah. There's
feeling
nothing
to it.
feeling to, the frustration of an environment like that. And so every generation has to relearn it.
That's true.
So,
Because they don't know what it felt like.
yeah.
Yeah.
And emotions
Mm-hmm.
are not something to be taken lightly
Nope.
as to how, people think, work, operate. I mean, I think it's a bigger influence than what people realize.
It is. I mean, there's so many, it's so nebulous in a way that you can't even really grasp the concepts of where we are as a society and the nuances of it to say, here's we are, what we need to really kind of remind people and show them. Because you can't be told, what things were like. You have to be shown, you have to be felt, emotion, the reactionary. Because then all of a sudden it's like nailing a fence post and then removing the nail. Even though temporarily what caused the pain is gone, the hole is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still gonna, other things will support you. That isn't happening right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just like they're creating struggles out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
What they perceive as struggles.
Yeah, isn't that true?
And they're not real struggles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. That's kind of what I think. It was something else that you brought up regarding coaching that's on the tip of my tongue that I forgot about.
You touched on relationship and meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
And not one size fits all by any stretch.
Right.
So
in a way, you're like at the whim of, you want to be a one-to-one coach, but you can only do so much with so many people.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
But there's opportunity to group coach, right? In those cases, you can't, when I say group, like 3, 4, you can't get, if you get bigger than that, it's not effective.
It becomes a factory at that point.
Right. And you can't really, you can't really establish a cadence, but 3 or 4, in a mentoring type, coaching type, approach, that's still effective.
Well, I mean, a lot of, that's where I was going to go with it. Sharing your wisdom, your truth and stuff like that. Your truth. I hate saying that. Your view of your own history and what it's meant to you, essentially. How you saw life and what happened to you with other people online is probably desperately needed. I'm on my business partner all the time. He's got such a great sense of, he's like an old soul. And we've adopted a moniker for him called the small business pastor. And he's writing a book currently. I don't know if he's going to like me saying this, but it'll be out shortly. And I love him that he's doing this. But it's basically, around the concept of there is no crisis. It's actually one of our tenets here at J2 is that we operate from a basis of, look, at the end of the day, there really is no crisis. And if you handle it in such and you're not panicking, you handle it better. Now, there are some people that don't believe or don't agree with that concept, but it's like, to what end, to what expense of your mental exhaustion? Why get yourself crazy? I mean, it's biblical. Don't fear.
Dude, you're going exactly where my mind was going. I remember when I worked at Crown, I had the opportunity to lead the network group that was responsible for our customers' networks, the portion of their network that we had. And man, what you said about being calm in a crisis is critical, but you had to set yourself up for it, right?
Yeah.
You have to have good practices in place so that you don't do something dumb to bring their network down. That's number one. And then number two, if something happens outside of your control, like some act of nature, then you need to have a system in place so that you can effectively manage the restoration of that network.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing that, there is no need to get bent out of shape, right? You've got structured procedures, right? And you're expecting things, to happen, and you're prepared for them mentally. And with, that was our foundation. And if you think about what you were just sharing about there is no crisis. When you say that, I think of people who think there's a crisis, who get themselves stressed out or get themselves anxious. What is the foundation for us as a person? Well, it's got to have a belief in something, right? And belief in God and in Christ is what personally allows you to say there is no crisis, right? You have to calm yourself down. And that's what gives me calm and peace, is to be alone and focus on things that really do matter.
Right.
And not worry about the things that don't. And, I think that's something as human beings, sometimes that's a perfect reason to have a coach, somebody to knock on your door or on your forehead and say, hey, it's not that bad. Look, take a breath, take a step back. And here's what we're going to do.
What have we learned from this?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Every experience, whether it's a good experience or not.
You ever have a manager just go off on you for something?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Of course.
And it's like, if you replay that scenario in your mind, a lot of us have had situations. It's like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm hard pressed to think of a situation now, but I know it's happened to me. If you replay that where their temperament was different and they just said, hey, for example, saying something on the air at a radio station that might tick somebody off. Well, okay, something comes to mind. One of our traffic guys one time at I-95, the home of rock and roll, was talking about, the mall area is just a mess. Stay away from the mall because it was traffic, holidays or whatever. And the people at the mall called the radio station and said, do not ever say that again, because don't tell people that we're advertising with you. Do not tell people to stay away from us. And, whoever, I guess they must have handed him just a whole bunch of ration of crap about it. And it's like, you could only imagine, you can be scared into it and no, I'll never do that again. Or somebody coming and say, hey man, you mentioned this. They're really upset about it, but just moving forward, maybe just kind of smooth it over. Which way is going to be more, I guess, salient?
Yeah.
And absorbable.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, some people
or asking a question maybe in that case, right? Which I don't know. You have to break this. You have to get on the topic. What was going through your mind,
right?
Well, I got this information. I wanted to make sure that everybody else was aware.
Yeah.
What ramifications did you think about? What the side effects might be of that? Well, no. Well, here's one for you.
Yeah.
This is what happened. Oh my gosh. See, your response would have been, oh my gosh.
I didn't even
think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, next time it happens.
Which my follow-up question, if I were the person giving the traffic report, okay, so are we serving the people in the traffic or the advertiser?
Yeah. Well, actually, the answer to that is both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so how would you handle it if you did it, again? You would.
The area around the mall is a mess because everybody wants to go to the mall because it's such a great mall. Yeah. But if you don't want to be in traffic, you might want to avoid that area.
Yeah. Well, you might even do this. You might even say, hey, just beware. Traffic on XYZ street, right? Without even mentioning the mall is backed up.
And I guess any business could get upset about, you saying that about anywhere they might be if traffic backs up.
Right.
What is your philosophy on coaching? Do you have one?
A philosophy? Yeah. It's like, well, I go back to the first thing I thought about was what we said, what I said the mission was for ActionCOACH, World Abundance Through Business Reeducation. That's not a philosophy, I don't think, but as far as a philosophy, a belief, I'll interpret that as a belief. My belief on coaching is that, it can be a very rewarding role for anybody to take on if you're interested in supporting the growth of others. It's really about the interest and growth of others, and like I said, asking questions that speak to the heart of where they're at and what their challenge is, and nurturing them through that. So I'm not sure if that's a philosophy or not, but that's
something to think about.
Yeah, it's something I think about and something, and that's really why I'm doing it, you know? I mean, think about, did you play sports in school?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I was late in the game. I played roller hockey when I was 18.
Yeah.
But that was like, hey,
did you ever have a teacher that sticks out in your mind?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
What
not in athletics, but definitely in 11th, 12th grade.
Yeah.
For sure.
What made that teacher or those teachers stand out in your mind?
Well, it was funny. Mr. Valenticonis was my accounting teacher, and I excelled at that because it was practical. Looking back on it, I wasn't a very good student overall. My senior year, I knocked it out of the park because I think things probably, quite honestly got easier. But the accounting was something I could relate to because it felt practical. Like this is something that could come in handy for me down the road. And Mr. Trudell taught, again, practical subject. He taught home economics. Well, not home ec. He didn't do home ec. He did basically studying economies, how they work. We had to pick a stock and follow it during a quarter of the school year, that kind of thing. Plus, he was just a very impressionable teacher. You do remember the good ones.
Right.
You remember the bad ones, too.
Right. What made them good?
What made them good was that they're relating to you. They had just a gift that they knew how to relate to you. I had one in college who was a history teacher, and I never saw history, U.S. history, taught this way. Like if I had a podcast back then, because I was working in radio and I went back to college on my own dime, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how I could help you, but I don't know how to tell your story, but I just love to spend an hour chewing the fat with you. Like I'd have him on as a guest on the podcast. I don't remember his name, but this dude taught history like you couldn't take notes. You just wanted to listen. He told stories.
Yeah, right.
And he painted the picture of what history looked like to the people that were participating in it at that point with U.S. Revolutionary War times. Kind of like what we saw in the Patriot. You know about all these things, but making them, what they truly meant to the generations that they at hand. Mel Gibson's character not wanting his boys to participate in this monumental war that was on the doorstep.
Right.
Because he had experience with battles in the past with, I want to say the French and Indian War. And I don't want that life for you because of what I felt, what I saw. You have no idea what you're getting into with this. I do. I want you to have no part of this. But it came to his doorstep. He had to do something. And it was that kind of a thing. He had a way of painting the picture of that. And it's funny because I do the same thing with explaining gospel to skeptics and, dare I say atheists, taking the data of the four gospels, just starting there and applying it to, okay, what did this really look like in an apologetics manner?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that had a big impression on me.
Yeah. Well, coaches, you can't say the word coach without me, honestly, without thinking about Nick Saban, and of course, love him or hate him, he had such a personality and such great insight and was a psychologist, and gosh, I wish I was armed with some of the things he would say. Oh, the cornerbacks would, because he was like, that was his forte, was coaching the cornerbacks, and they would, if one of them wouldn't do something right after he had taught them, he would just go off on them, and they would say, well, Coach Saban just flies off the handle and, there's no reason for him to do that. And his response to that was like, if you think it's really intense for me to go off on you, you wait till you make that mistake over and over again in front of 100,000 people, and that would like get their attention, and motivate them in the right way. That's not the best example, but that's one that just jumped in my mind as to his coaching ability. And it's so much, I don't know, I'm a big college football fan, and of course I went to school at Alabama and had the opportunity to watch Saban, not only at his press conferences, because they were fun and entertaining, how he would toy with the press, that was really funny. But then as well, he had his call-in show that he was produced and put on YouTube, and you could watch it anytime. And I got in the habit of watching it, and oh my gosh, he was so much fun because he was teaching.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he's just a born natural teacher. He was teaching people how to think and how to motivate and all of that. And now he's doing it, as an expert, quote, expert on College game day for the whole country. Yeah. And it's fun to see him because he has this persona and this kind of reputation of being this gruff, mad, emotional guy on the sidelines.
But he's no BS.
Yeah. But he's on the other side. He's really a funny guy.
Yeah.
Who's got a personality. And anyway, he's, when you think of coaching, you can't think of, you can't say the word coach without thinking about Saban, at least in my mind.
See, there are two philosophies going on right there, and this came up on a podcast many years ago that I was on, and the host had put something out on social media talking about another business coach who would, intentionally bring people up on stage because they're not really a coach at that point. They're just a professional speaker, which is a lot of coaches aspire to be. And, he would kind of humiliate the person in front of the entire group. Take your shirt off. If you don't have a six pack, you're not serious. We require everybody here at my company to have a six pack or at least be working towards one. And he made a gimmick out of that. And the guy I was talking to was kind of like lauding that. He was basically saying, he's right. And, you really got to do this to whip people in line. I'm going, yeah, I have an issue with that because the car business can operate that way where, the managers will put you on blast or on notice if you mess up, and they think behavior correction comes in the form of public humiliation or being yelled at or that kind of thing. And it's like, dude, that works in the military.
Right.
It's a militaristic way of doing it because, yes, in the military, there is a crisis. If you're in a foxhole, you have to be really responsive. In the car business, it's like, okay, and he was kind of defending that practice of doing things. I said, here's the thing. I know car business managers who operate that way. And I said, what's the most expensive part of operating a business? Is onboarding new employees, training them, getting them into the, and it's all they're doing is you're weeding through the people who can take the rigors of the business. I get it. But at the same time, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because you're costing the company money, because you're constantly having to run ads, vetting people, get them on the floor. You might be doing damage to the image of your dealership because you have untrained people in front of other customers. They're misinterpreting, loading their lips and all this other stuff. And, you could just tell the kind of dealership you're in, at least in that ecosystem.
Right.
And these guys will, I'm like, why instead of doing that, to your point, learn the psychology of the people that are working for you.
Right.
And appeal to them in the way that's going to work.
Right.
And understand that you're there to serve them as a manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're on the front line serving the clients of the dealership, maybe in a service capacity, a parts capacity, a sales capacity. And I've experienced that firsthand where, no, you work for us. Well, no, I'm actually on the front lines talking to your customer. I could bounce out of here and there's no repercussions. I'm not going to be, I don't have a dishonorable discharge on my record. None of that. Okay. I don't have to worry about military police. And I said, that's the difference. And I said, in a sport, and he was actually this guy on the podcast he was talking about. He says, well, that's how we handle people in baseball. I said, okay, that's a good point. I said, what kind of job business is sports? I said, it's like radio, how radio was for me. It's a passion-driven industry. I just want to do this. I just love what I'm doing. I'll take all the heat and all the, the people on Alabama's football team, he could get away with that because he knew they would take it. Yeah, sure, it would toughen them up. But at the same time, I think the respect factor takes longer.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Why are they succeeding now? Because he knows what it's like to be in their shoes.
Right.
He was a player.
Right.
If I'm going to make you do push-ups, I'm going to get right down there with you and do it alongside
Interestingly enough, Mike Vrabel is doing well up at the Patriots now, the former Titans coach, right? He's known to be a players coach.
Yeah.
And it's good to see him kind of, doing well up there.
Yeah. The Titans are kind of going through that themselves, reinventing themselves, and management has to figure that out and understand that there's probably a lot of hubris going on,
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing I could ever have heard from a manager that I had in the car business, I asked him, I said, hey, I kind of semi-respected the guy. He had been there a long time. He had people in his employ for, 10 plus years, similar to other cultures that I had been a part of. But I asked him one day, I said, tell me about some of the books you read. He's like, oh, I don't read. And I said, okay. Who feeds you, man? I mean, what do you do? He's like, I've got so much experience in this business. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. I said, one of the key phrases that came out of this business that will never, ever leave me, somebody, J.C. Ward, if he's listening to this podcast, it was because of you. He and I worked at Honda, and he says, you need to always be growing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. And
Exactly.
I'm going, that hit. I'm like, do you ever have those moments in life where things are said to you, you just know you're going to file them away?
Yeah.
That was one of those moments.
Well, that is what do they call it? It's not colorful, but it's that provides some clarity.
Yeah.
Right. That is when you're
green, you're
growing. When you're rot.
When you're ripe, you rot.
When you're ripe, you rot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you're ripe, I mean, and that was prevalent in the car business. You'd have sales guys like, what are we getting trained for?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a trainer that came in that was like, just going over the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the fundamentals are good to kind of go over because, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll try that today, and it's like, even though you've been doing it for 17 years, what's this guy going to teach me?
Yeah. Right. Well, it goes back to being, flexible and resilient. You know what I mean? We were just talking about people losing their jobs and having to learn something else. It's easier if you're like in that continual learning mode to learn a new way of living than it is, if you were just like not in a learning mode, you were in the robot mode. I'm going to work, I'm getting a paycheck, I'm coming home. But if you are continually learning, then it's part of your life. You know what I mean? It's it's a habit.
Yeah.
Learning is a habit, I think. And people get to a point where they don't feel like they need training or learning. It's like, I always say, I've heard it somewhere, you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah. That's Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're either get busy living or get busy dying.
Yeah, that's very true, man.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you and find you and everything? On socials and all that stuff?
Yeah. I'm, Music City Action Coach. That's on Facebook, and Instagram as well. And then, of course, my website's the same, musiccityactioncoach.com.
I want to see more stuff from you. Start putting out.
You know what, Jim? I had a podcast going there for a while. I haven't had an episode in a while. So you're motivating me to get back in gear here.
Do it every week, man.
Yeah, I need to.
Yeah. It's for your own good.
Yeah, been fun.
Well, there you go, Craig Wipperman, musiccityactioncoach.com.
Yes.
All the details, of course, will be down in the description. Also want to mention Peacemaker Coffee Company. Those guys sent me a bunch of product. Really been enjoying it. I should have had some here. I've got it. It's sitting like right over there. Check those guys out. Peacemaker Coffee on Instagram for a very patriotic and America-loving coffee company that actually produces and makes really good coffee. I heard a lot of people raving about it. I'll make sure to put a link in the description for that as well. Of course, mmtbp.com to follow us if you've gotten anything out of this episode. Give us a rating, share it out with your friends, all the things. mmtbp.com. Craig, what a wonderful conversation. Thanks for coming out today, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Jim.